Hey everyone! Today's Wasteland Spotlight takes us by Jean, Nevada, just outside of Las Vegas, to what is left of the old Gold Strike Hotel. Once a jewel of the desert and part of the gateway to Las Vegas, the site now sits crumbling alongside the highway between an old closed-down prison on one side and the world's largest Chevron gas station on the other. The Gold Strike has endured many closures and ownership changes over the years, but it was finally put to rest shortly after the pandemic and never reopened. After that, it was the site of one of the largest and most complex copper theft operations in the state, despite the best efforts that had been made to keep people out and keep the location under surveillance. Join me today as we take a closer look at this remnant of Las Vegas history, and welcome to the Wasteland. So, there's our hotel. Plenty of broken windows up top, but the ground floor is welded shut. I know they've been a bit anal trying to keep people out of this area, so I am hoping to get a little bit of cover from this incoming storm. I have a little police station on one side of me right over there, and then a materials yard for some construction company on the other, so I'll take whatever cover I can get. The wind helps cover the noise of walking on all the broken glass a bit, and the prospect of rain should have the construction guys busy battening down the hatches at least a little bit. Coming up on the side without the police presence, we can get a look down towards where the casino portion of the Gold Strike used to stand. There is still a walkway bridge that connected it to the hotel, and that's where I'll be headed. There is nothing left of the old casino part, that is long gone. Only the hotel remains. I'm kinda hurrying through this area because I'm completely exposed to the construction yard to my right, and if someone over there notices and calls it in, I won't have long to wait for a response. This back area is a mess of scattered hotel bits and debris. We can see some of the handiwork of the intrepid copper thieves that are usually the first ones to arrive at a business as soon as the doors are sealed. If you shut down your business out here, the copper cutters will settle on the place before the first coat of dust even has a chance to collect itself. This little stairway here leads up to the remains of the old walkway bridge. Small storage area down here with what looks like some old water softener barrels. And up we go. That giant hole used to lead to the casino itself, but now it's just a way for some fresh air to get into this place. And here we go. It looks like the way is shut up ahead, probably welded closed just like all the other doors. This is where most YouTube channels would stop, maybe give you a public service announcement about the dangers and their inability to go further. But this is Wasteland by Wednesday, and we go in. Here is the elevator lobby, and we can see that one set of doors is open. The place smells a lot like what I figure is the ambiance of hell. A mixture of burned plastic, wet dog shit, and the faint hint of dead things. Let's take a look at this elevator shaft. Bunch of old carts at the bottom, and then there is this long curtain thing hanging down, which will become relevant later in the story. Let's head out to explore what is actually the second floor. The fire damage here is actually from a fire that swept through the second floor in July of last year, most likely started by some copper cutters by accident. A standard tactic for a big score like this is to simply move in for a while. Too much coming and going gets noticed, and getting noticed gets them arrested, so what they do is they bring tools and supplies, food, and everything they need for a week or so, and then they just move in. Here it was probably easy, they even had hotel beds. That way, they can do their work all at once and only have to escape back out one time with the loot. Across the way here is a small office area. I'm not sure of the original purpose. Lots of bed frames stacked up in here. Some of these rooms are remarkably intact. I'm definitely not going in every single room. There's over 800 of them in the hotel, but we will peek in when it looks like something interesting is in there. Here is the central elevator shaft. And here is an interesting room. Cases and cases of old iHome CD player radios. Many of them still brand new in the boxes. Kind of crazy. We can see the police station slash courthouse over there. Yes, that's the courthouse too. Shows how small this town really is. One of the little slot machine cash boxes here. No cash though. We got a mattress partially blocking the end of the hallway here. This is our east elevator shaft, sealed up tight. And over here we find our stairwell. This is a good time for a little safety tidbit. If you are ever exploring a place like this, which you absolutely should not do, you need to always make sure not to let doors close behind you unless you are sure you have another way out. Getting trapped in some abandoned building due to an automatically locking door is embarrassing. Alright, that was the second floor. Now we go down to the first. Looks like the last intrepid explorers had to cut their way through here. In we go. Lots of lamps. It seems like for some reason they tried to sort items by room. One room for lamps, one for radios, one for mattresses, and so on. Seeing as the place was slated for demolition, I have no idea why they did it. The fire really put in some work down here. Just a random copying machine stuck back there. Weird. These are the payout slips that modern slot machines give you when you cash out. You can then take the slip with your money on it to the cashier to get paid, or you can stick the slip in another machine. These are just blanks. We can see bed springs all along the ground, exposed remains of burned away mattresses. I have to apologize for the sounds of me breathing through the respirator I'm wearing. Sounds a bit like a hungover Darth Vader, if you ask me. An old light-up sign here from a slot machine. Looks like we found the light fixture room. Heard something there. It is definitely a creepy feeling being in here, and as the wind starts to pick up outside, I'm hearing all sorts of weird shit. More lamps and what looks like some sort of decorative bits. Continuing along, there is a lot of furniture piled up in the corridor here. Looks like this room was packed with hospitality supplies for the rooms. On a post-collapse prepper note, things like these little hotel soaps would be the valuable find here. Soap will be critical for sanitation and hygiene in a post-collapse wasteland world, and while you can make it, some ingredients may be better used elsewhere, such as animal fat. Finding cases of soap would be a bonus. Looks like we have another storage room of sorts here. and we can see our copper cutters made short work of the electrical systems. Something to note as we go through here is just how much copper was left behind. There was literally so much that was easily available that the crew doing this didn't have to waste time trying to be efficient about getting all the way to the base of each cable or whatever. Speed was the priority here, and even though I am sure they would have used a big box truck for the exfiltration, they still probably had more than they could carry anyway. The cables would not have been the primary targets to begin with. The crew probably spent most of their time on the copper piping from the rooms. Easier to cut and carry more weight faster, and also easier to chop up later to make it look like job site scrap. Coming into the scrap yard with long coils of cable is a huge red flag, and they have to spend days making it look like scrap rather than stolen cable. Pipes are easier. A little time spent cutting it up, bending it, banging with hammers, and boom, it all looks like scrap. This main power switching room here is a great example of the kinds of cables that drew major attention, and so it must be carefully processed by the thieves in order to avoid getting arrested for their crimes. This crew probably only spent a week or two living in here to process the place, but after that I'm sure they spent many, many months slowly breaking it all down and spreading it out across multiple scrap yards in small batches that wouldn't draw attention. Into the hall here, and we can see one of the original breach holes they made to access the stairwell rather than use the exterior doors that would have potentially been noticed. Over here we have our bottom level elevator lobby, and we can see all the carts and stuff that have been thrown down the elevator shaft, probably for their weird version of destructive fun. Time to get to the upper floors. You can see and hear the wind blowing through from all the broken windows in this hotel, and with the storm coming in, that's only going to increase quite a bit. That is the second floor that we already explored, so we will go up to the third. Seems like another storeroom here. And we have one of the Gideon's Bibles. Looks like more hospitality storage. We have cosmetics and coffee pots galore, and old linen carts. Not a lot of interest on this floor. Here out the window we can see the old Jean Prison, also known as the Southern Nevada Correctional Center, a medium security men's prison. It closed down completely in 2008, but it had a small women's camp operating outside the perimeter up until just last month. The entire place is now closed as of July of 2026, and perhaps we will see an exploration video of that place one day. We'll see. Remember what I said about letting old broken doors close behind you. On to the 4th floor. Maybe not, so 5th floor it is. I'm not sure what the hell these metal things were. My best guess is trash cans. Somewhere in the distance here, I keep hearing the occasional beep of a dying smoke detector. And this is something interesting. Piles of slot machine cash boxes or voucher boxes. These would be loaded in the machines to receive and hold cash or money vouchers for later collection. I think our smoke detector is in here. Yep, there it is. The last slightly powered device in this building. And here is one of those cash boxes opened up. I can hear the thunder growing outside too. Makes this place even creepier to be inside. Over here, we can get a look at the sky and the approaching storm, and the very small recreational airport that is alongside the hotel. That airport is the reason for the very limited drone footage of this hotel in the video. That storm's going to dump hard here soon. Pack of smokes probably left by our copper cutters, and a couple of the older reinforced metal cache boxes. And yes, there is black mold all through this place, hence the respirator I'm wearing. It looks like this office was the main storage for the cache boxes and associated hardware. We also see boxes of the old handwritten access logs that would have been filled out anytime someone opened or moved a cache box. And hey, an old change machine. Not sure what this is other than assorted garbage. Tons of hotel soaps. Linen storage room, and we can really hear the wind building outside now and starting to push hard into the building. Very strong wind now. The rain will be here in minutes. That was the 5th floor. Time to go up to the 6th. The wind really adds to the atmosphere in here, and I wish I could adequately impart just how creepy this is. This says it's an evidence bag, but evidence of what? Looks like we found operations, or the server room. Couple of fire safes. MS-DOS, that brings me back. That wind is really strong now. so much crazy noise in here, it kind of runs up my awareness into overdrive. You never know if you're alone in a place like this, and with so much copper left behind, I'm sure this place gets visited regularly by members of the old crew looking for a quick few $100, or even the occasional druggie. But they mostly come out at night. Mostly. Either way, they would probably assume that I was some opposing force to be avoided or dealt with here, so I have to stay on my toes. TV box here. And an entire room full of TVs. Not empty boxes either, these are all full. I'm guessing these were the flat screens that were replacing the old CRT units in some of the rooms. Coming up here, we find our first signs of people's personal items, mostly clothing. Looks like this side office was a combination of things, lost and found being one of them, and medical waste or other gross bodily stuff given all these biohazard bags and containers. As they say, what happens in Vegas? And this looks like a security cage. Lots of evidence bags down here. I'm guessing for crimes committed on property and then waiting to be turned over to the police. And then here we have what was called a prostrate chair, used for restraining uncooperative individuals to wheel them out. Like a hand truck dolly, but for people. That wind is really screaming through the door cracks. Looks like we will skip 7 and go right up to the 8th floor. Antique Coke glass. cart blocking the stairs here, and tons of coffee pod packets, another post-collapse treasure trove. We have arrived on the 9th floor. Another storage room. Ironing boards and a ton of phone books. Remember those? A whole box of Bibles as well. Lampshades, portable cots, and assorted linens. I'm not sure what all these circuit boards are for, but there are a lot of them. My mutual assistance group has an electrical engineer who is a key member of the group, and as he would say, parts is parts. Acer's interface boards, it says. If anyone knows what those are, let me know down in the comments. A small storage room here, not much left. Dot matrix printer paper. How old is that shit? Definitely full rain now, and we can hear that train off in the distance. Heading up to the 10th floor. All this black mold in here, you gotta wonder how much was here when the place was still open. Looks like a basic electrical workshop storage room here. Couple of flammable materials safe boxes. A very wet airfield now. Coming up on a ton of paperwork here scattered across the hall. All sorts of financial records and invoices. I wonder if this room was where the records used to be stored. Looks like they got moved across the hall for some reason. Look at all those floppy disks. A huge amount of records left behind. Payroll records too, and probably employee files. This is hugely irresponsible of the company because these are the kinds of records that have all the information criminals would need to steal these people's identities. But hey, just another reason why jobs suck and should be avoided. Found the ice machine. Looks like the storm has mostly passed over. upper elevator lobby and we can take a look at the shaft. See the cut electrical cables? A long way down. And there's what's left of the elevator car. And see this long curtain? This is the one we saw all the way down at the bottom when we came in. If we follow it over here, we can see where it was tied off. Now, the story I heard was that this was originally used to climb down the shaft when they were cutting the copper cables and such. And then later it was used as a way to lower down bundles of cables and pipes from the top floors down to the bottom so they wouldn't have to carry it all up and down the stairs. Pretty crazy, but the copper here was worth a six-figure payday, so I'm not surprised at the extensive operation. Estimates you can find online for a hotel like this, especially an old one with 800 rooms, it's about 300 pounds of copper per room, or 240,000 pounds of copper in this case. With scrap prices over $4 a pound at minimum, that means the copper was easily close to $1 million. If they only got 20% of that, the biggest and most easily accessible pieces, that's still 200 grand. Not a bad jackpot, even for Vegas. People like to act as if all these copper thieves are just crackheads, but that's an oversimplification. While, yes, almost all crackheads are copper thieves, not all copper thieves are crackheads. There are some pretty sophisticated crews out there with heavy industrial skills, professional tools, and a lot of experience. Say this one was a crew of 8 guys, and they spent 2 weeks in here maybe. Well, even cutting out a couple shares for expenses, that still works out to about $20,000 per person for 2 weeks of work. And that is still only if they got about 20% of the copper in the building. Chances are they got more than that. Little storage room here looks like mostly carpet and upholstery patch materials. And these red sealed mattresses would have been the bed bug ones. Lovely. More black mold there that had been hidden behind the wall paneling. Like I said, I'm pretty sure this place was covered in it even while it was still open. Just a quick note here to talk about that copper. Think back to every single room we've been in. They all have this exact same demo pattern. The same walls were smashed out for access to the main wet wall pipes, and every single room is exactly the same. Thieves or not, that is a lot of work for 800 rooms. Storm is over, quick as always around here. And now we're headed for the top floor. Looks like we found the vacuum cleaner workshop. Central elevator shaft and a cart full of something waiting to fall down the rest of the way. Looks like this is the full electrical workshop. First aid kit there. Always check for stim packs or rat away. Here is our elevator car. I'm not going to step in there though. And the middle shaft is open here. I can hear that thunder out there. Looks like we still have a little bit of the storm left. Time to get up to the roof. I am definitely not staying up here long, not with that storm. The last thing I need is to get struck by lightning so my wife can say, "See, I told you not to go up there." Here we have the machinery and pulley system for the central elevator running down through the middle of the hotel. And some old schematics as well. I'm definitely not climbing that ladder so that I can be the tallest thing here, but let's squeeze by for a look at the main elevator machinery room. Yeah, that's definitely a fat nope on being the lightning rod. Time to head down. Check the back area a little bit, see if the authorities are waiting for me down here, having a smoke break on the clock while I do all the hard work. But no, it's all clear. Oh yeah, there is the bottom of our curtain, or whatever the hell this is. Thing is well over 100 feet long, and I can't imagine what it was. Damn sure wasn't a red carpet, because no one worthy of that ever graced these halls. Time to go back out the hole. Outside, we can take a quick look at the little workshop that sits under that main bridgeway to the hotel. Someone's final drink right here. I'm guessing this was something of a carpentry shop. This right here is the remains of the very, very small pool for a hotel of this size, all filled in with trash and rubble now. So there it is, the Gold Strike Hotel in all its faded glory. I assume they'll be doing the demolition soon, but hell, I would have said that several years ago and been wrong, so who knows. Alright, whatever you do, don't try this yourself. I hope you enjoyed the expedition. Stay safe and stay ready. It's a wasteland out there.